my husband, who passed away years ago, has come back to life. He brought back a graceful village woman and 5 children who resemble him closely. When he saw the dilapidated Marquis mansion, he frantically asked me, "Where is my mansion?" I smiled and told him, "Old sir, weren't you notified when the Marquis mansion was confiscated?" "Madam, it's terrible. The young master has risen from the dead, and he brought a female ghost with him." Hearing the maid's words, the cucumber slices on my face nearly flew off. But over the years, I've mastered keeping a straight face, even if the mountains crumble before me. I ask leisurely, "How did he come back to life? What proof do you have that he's my husband?" The maid stammered for a long time, but couldn't give a proper explanation. "It's just, he looks like him." "Nonsense. My husband died 10 years ago. By now, he should be of school, going age. How could he possibly be alive?" I lifted the cucumber slices from my eyelids. "Let's go. I want to see what kind of monster dares to impersonate my late husband." When I reached the courtyard gate and saw the man standing outside, I was certain the man before me is indeed my husband, who has been dead for 10 years. Beside him stands a plainly dressed, yet strikingly beautiful woman. I admit she possesses considerable charm. Even after bearing children, her figure remains unchanged, and her every movement exudes allure. The maid gave a false report, bringing not just one female ghost, but 5 little ones too. At a glance, 5 children in 10 years. Truly prolific. Seeing me, my husband looked me over disdainfully and said with displeasure, "Mrs. Is this how you manage the Marquis mansion?" As I was about to speak, he turned to the village girl. "Liana, you're in a delicate condition. Go inside first." The tallest child exclaimed, "Father, is this our home? It's so big and grand." The woman called Liana smiled gently. "Listen to your father. From now on we'll live here." With that, Liana led the children inside. The maid swiftly blocked the doorway, arms spread wide. "No one enters." Feigning shock, I said, "What Marquis mansion? Who are you?" The still, shaken maid chimed in, "Where did this country bumpkin come from, daring to impersonate our late master? Madam, shall we report him to the authorities?" Barred at the entrance, Liana looked lost, anxiously glancing at her husband, while the 5 children fidgeted uneasily. The youngest one glared at me venomously, eyes steeped in poison. I ignored it, turning to my husband. "Old sir, might you have the wrong house? When I married him, he was quite handsome indeed, but now, whether by hardship and time, his face bears many marks of age. While still handsome overall, his disheveled appearance and dusty face made old sir a polite address at best. I, on the other hand, have lived well these 10 years, dining finely, keeping early hours, and regularly indulging in skincare with noble matrons of the capital. My complexion remains as tender as an unwed maiden's." "Mrs. What do you mean by this?" My husband fumed with rage. "This is my Marquis mansion. How could I possibly mistake the door?" I looked at him in astonishment. "Old sir, weren't you notified when the Marquis mansion was confiscated? 10 years ago, I was still a carefree young girl. In a single day, I transmigrated into the book, becoming the future high society matriarch who would toil tirelessly managing the household for her husband. My husband vanished one day, never to return. The Marquis mansion erected a cenotaph for him and pinned the blame for his disappearance entirely on me. I knew the subsequent plot all too well. He'd meet the beautiful female lead in the countryside. They'd have a string of children together, and years later, he'd return triumphantly with them. Meanwhile, I managed the Marquis mansion for 10 years on his behalf, exhausting myself for his siblings' futures and marriages, draining my dowry to maintain the household, only to end up with a good reputation, but losing both my wealth and my person. A youthful maiden aged into a haggard woman, only to be cast aside when he returned with his beautiful village wife. The adulterous couple blissfully enjoyed the foundation I built, yet had the audacity to claim I'd accomplished nothing all these years. What a clever scheme they'd orchestrated. So the moment I stepped into the wedding sedan, I was already prepared. Since we'll be strangers in the future anyway, Why should I spend my energy supporting his family? I was sent to my husband's bed, yet he didn't even touch me, only left traces of his blood from his fingertips on the sheets. He told me, Mrs. I married you into this household because I saw your virtue and diligence. From now on, I entrust the entire Marquis mansion to your care. Only a fool would believe that, without giving me money or the keys to the treasury. How am I supposed to manage anything? He's just waiting for me to use my dowry to cover his expenses. I am, after all, the daughter of a renowned salt merchant from Jiangnan. When my father and brothers came to the capital, their display of wealth was so grand it made everyone envious. If he hadn't secretly suppressed my father and brothers, leading to their imprisonment, I wouldn't have been rushed into this marriage. What a pity. He schemed meticulously, thinking I was virtuous and wealthy enough to sustain his Marquis mansion and raise his siblings. He calculated my character. He calculated my family background. But what he didn't calculate was that the one inhabiting this body is me, a refined egoist. According to the plot, less than a month after our wedding, he took me to the autumn hunt and went missing, leaving only his torn clothing and a blood-stained finger in the forest. Everyone thought he had been devoured by wild beasts, pitying me as the newlywed wife. Some even whispered behind my back that I was a husband, killer. Only I knew he had run off with his beautiful village sweetheart. Once he was gone, I dropped the act completely. The brother-in-law I raised with strict discipline to become the capital's most elegant young master, nurture, more like neglect. The sister-in-law I cultivated with silver and gold into the capital's top beauty, support, more like sabotage. I did take good care of the Marquis mansion for him. It's just that his siblings were utterly useless. Now, my husband was staring daggers at me. He had finally noticed the dilapidated gate and the long, removed plaque of the mansion. The once glorious Marquis mansion now stood without even a gatekeeper. At a glance, the courtyard's plants had long lost their meticulously groomed elegance. I clapped my hands. Oh my, look at his face. It does bear some resemblance to my late husband. Could he be a relative of the Marquis mansion? Then I turned to the maid and said, Didn't we have some worthless tea leaves left from the last confiscation? Dry them in the sun and serve us old sir a cup. The maid repeatedly agreed and scurried off to brew the tea. I then looked warmly at my husband. Come, come in. How much travel money did you bring to the capital? If you want to stay here, you'll have to pay. As relatives, I'll charge your family of 7 just 1 tael of silver per night. As I spoke, I pulled out an abacus. Times are tough, and it's not easy for a widow like me to get by. You'll understand, won't you, old sir? My husband's face flushed red with anger, and he raised his hand to strike me. Liana quickly stopped him. Hong Fei, your madam probably doesn't recognize you. What madam? My expression instantly darkened as I pulled out a spiked club from behind me and swung it right into my husband's face. She struck out while cursing. I'm a widow of impeccable virtue. Where did this filthy peasant crawl from, daring to claim he's my husband? Everyone in the capital knows my late husband was devoured by jackals and tigers during the autumn hunt. What manner of scum are you, impersonating his name? As I spoke, I spat contemptuously on the ground, just as the maid came running over with cold tea. Madam, we've run out of firewood and tea leaves. I scooped water from the pond to brew this, and plucked a few leaves from the tree. I hope our guest won't mind. Well played. My brother just brought Westlake Longjing tea yesterday. No way I'm wasting it on this shameless wretch. No sooner had she finished than I snatched the teapot and splashed its contents over the group of 7. Felix Xiao dodged in time, but Liana wasn't so lucky. She took the full brunt of it. A few tadpole eggs from the pond now dangled from Liana's hairpin, wriggling grotesquely, oblivious. Liana continued dabbing her eyes with a handkerchief, feigning delicate distress. I barely held back a laugh, quickly reminding myself that a good actor must never break character. I planted my hands on my hips, putting on a fierce expression. Scram, scram. Since when have beggars become so shameless? Clearly, Felix Xiao had some pride left. My combination of insults and hostility dashed Felix Zhao's hopes of entering, and the look he gave me grew even colder. But who does he think he is? Why should I care about his attitude? With a loud bang, I shut the worn-out door, barring all 7 members of his family from entering. I turned around and shared a knowing smile with my maid. Back in the courtyard, the maid voiced her concern. "Madam, what if he finds someone to verify his identity?" I settled back into my chair, reapplying cucumber slices to my face. Who would he go to? The Zhao family's reputation has long been tarnished by his dear siblings. In this entire state, I'm the only unlucky widow left with a clean name. The political climate in the capital shifts in the blink of an eye. Does he still think he's the untouchable Lord Zhao from a decade ago? Since I've transmigrated into this story, I knew all along that Felix Zhao would return. As a scholar, I'm well versed in all the tropes: rebirth, transmigration, revenge plots, angsty romances, face-slapping revenge stories. I know them all by heart. Over these 10 years, I certainly haven't been idle. I've been scheming ways to tarnish the Zhao family's name and erode the prestige Felix Zhao built in his lifetime. If he tries seeking out his old friends now, they'll just chase him out. Not dragging him straight to the authorities would be an act of utmost mercy. After all, the Zhao family was raided just 2 months ago. If he claims now to be their lost heir, he and those 5 children would all end up in the imperial prison. So the next day, someone knocked on my door again. Bleary, I pulled it open to find Felix Zhao, now in fresh clothes, his face seething with anger. "Old sir, where's your family today?" I looked him up and down, shocked, and asked, "You didn't sell your wife and kids to buy those new clothes, did you?" I even spat near his feet. "Pa, abandoning your family? What kind of man are you?" Felix Zhao frowned. "Iris stew, drop the act. You know exactly who I am." With no one else around, I leaned leisurely against the door frame. "Who are you? You really don't know who I am?" He fumed. "I'm the one who rescued you from prison, spared you from disaster, and this is how you treat me?" I nodded repeatedly. Who in the capital doesn't know that I, widow do, have a cursed fate, having brought misfortune to my newlywed husband? Even a 3-year-old could recite all that by heart. He still wore that cool guy frown. "There's no one else here now. You don't have to pretend. I really don't know you," I replied with the same unhurried demeanor. Those who achieve great things must keep their mouths sealed. There are many things I'd take to my grave before ever speaking of them. He sized me up for a long moment, then suddenly laughed. "Iris stew, you don't actually think that by framing my brother and sister in law and landing them in the imperial prison, our entire Zhao family will fall into your hands? Do you? I'll pull a switcheroo and get them out. Then I'll expose your true face before everyone, so the whole world knows what a venomous woman you are." Psycho. To just blurt out his entire plan like that. Should I call him brainless or just hopelessly single-minded? I slammed the door shut with a bang, but I couldn't help feeling a bit curious. What could this man, who'd been a country bumpkin for 10 years, possibly be capable of? Thinking back on what I've endured over the past decade just to survive, haven't I struggled enough? My mother-in-law was constantly bedridden with illness, and after Felix Zhao's cenotaph was buried, she ordered me to attend to her at her bedside. Sometimes she wanted tea at just the right warmth, other times medicinal broth with exactly 3 lumps of rock sugar. I wasn't even allowed to sleep in a bed. I had to make a pallet on the floor by her couch, ready at any moment to fetch and carry for her. Countless times in the dead of night, she'd kick me awake just because she needed to spit. She took great pleasure in treating her daughter-in-law like a slave, a flicker of satisfaction always in her eyes whenever she saw me meek and submissive. Between coughs, she'd say, "Mrs. I'm unwell today. Go copy some sutras for me." I didn't dare argue, so I knelt by Lady Lin's bed and copied the scriptures. After one round of copying, the characters were barely legible. Lady Lin looked at my handwriting and flew into a rage. "Is this the kind of writing you Jiangnan women produce?" I replied innocently, "Mother-in-law, my handwriting is quite neat. It's just that your illness has affected your eyesight." As I spoke, I handed her several tampered books. "Look at the characters in these. Aren't they just as tidy as mine? Lady Lin refused to believe my trickery. How could this be? How dare you deceive me, Mrs. You vicious woman. How could I be vicious? I feigned innocence. Mother-in-law, everything you eat, use, wear, and live and now comes from me. If I were truly vicious, I would have poisoned your medicine long ago. Would you still be alive today? I even batted my eyes, putting on the facade of an innocent yet twisted culprit. Lady Lin quickly fainted from fright. The elderly really aren't in the best mental state, falling asleep without even a word. I had the maid swiftly replace the books and copied sutras before summoning the third miss of the household. Third miss wore a look of sheer arrogance, bearing no resemblance to the graceful lady described in the books. She glanced at me sideways, her tone domineering. Why did you call me over? My mother wants you to serve her, not me. As soon as third miss finished speaking, Lady Lin awoke inside and shouted, Cecilia, is that you? Come in quickly. Mrs. Is a venomous woman. How dare you harm my mother? Third miss widened her eyes and, without another thought, rushed frantically into the room. Lady Lin immediately pointed at me. Cecilia, be careful. This venomous woman poisoned my medicine. Hurry to the palace and fetch the imperial physician to treat me properly. Cecilia shoved me aside, ordered her servants to guard me, took her pass to enter the palace, and brought the imperial physician to the room just before the palace gates closed. After examining her, the imperial physician frowned. Lady Lin was overjoyed. Imperial physician, did this venomous woman poison my tonic? Return at once and report to the Empress Dowager. Sentence this wicked woman to death. Imperial physician, the medicines you've been taking are all of the finest quality, capable of not only curing your chronic ailments, but also strengthening your constitution. As the imperial physician finished speaking, Lady Lin's expression changed. Impossible, she just threatened me, insisting crooked handwriting was straight. Lady Lin produced the book I had placed by her pillow earlier, freezing the moment she opened it. The handwriting inside had become perfectly aligned. I wiped my tears nearby. Imperial physician, please don't blame madam. The medicines she took were all premium herbs from my dowry. If you doubt it, I can open the chests for inspection. As for the handwriting, I truly don't know why madam claimed it was crooked. The imperial physician's expression shifted unpredictably. After taking her pulse again, his face turned grave, and he called Cecilia Xiao and me outside. Madam appears to be suffering from hysteria, leading her to suspect those around her of ill intent and conjure illusions of non-existent things. Cecilia Xiao stood stunned, then urgently turned to me. Did you poison her? Sister-in-law, how can you say that? My husband is gone. If even you don't believe me, Iris might as well not live. With that, I turned and leaped directly into the lotus pond, which was less than a meter deep. Lady Lin developed hysteria and began drinking some unbearably bitter medicinal brews, fearing I might poison her. All the medicine was handled by Cecilia Xiao. Even the purchasing was done by Cecilia Xiao's personal maid. Throughout the whole process, I couldn't intervene at all. I could only provide the funds. Once those concoctions were consumed, they only made one more drowsy. Lady Lin lay in bed all day, without even the energy to bother me. I set up a table at the entrance of the Xiao residence, continuously copying scriptures with a brush. Whenever someone passed by, I would tearfully explain, my mother-in-law has hysteria, and as her daughter-in-law, there's nothing I can do but copy scriptures to pray for her recovery. After a whole day, I hadn't even finished one scripture, but the entire capital knew Lady Lin had hysteria, and I was an exceptionally filial daughter-in-law, copying scriptures at the Marquis's mansion gate, weeping uncontrollably. Even the Empress Dowager was moved upon hearing this and granted me an audience, even bestowing a chastity archway. All medicine has some toxicity. Later, a bout of cold took Lady Lin, and I wept uncontrollably before her coffin, crying even more bitterly than Cecilia Xiao, who had lost her own mother. The louder I cried, the better my reputation became. No one accused me of causing Lady Lin's death. The chastity archway bestowed by the Empress Dowager still hangs in my room. With Lady Lin gone, the household's financial control fell into my hands. Cecilia Shao disliked me, but with the entire Marquise mansion under my control, she had no choice but to comply. I specifically invited 3 disciplinarian matrons from the Empress Dowager's palace. Cecilia Shao struggled in her room. Let me out. I refused to learn any etiquette. I want to go out and play. Though young, she was incredibly strong. Even the 3 matrons from the palace couldn't restrain her. Watching Cecilia Shao beat the 3 matrons and then leave the Shao residence, I could only shake my head helplessly at them. I begged the aunties forgiveness. My little sister has been unruly since childhood, but with proper guidance, she can surely be set on the right path. As I spoke, I presented generous gifts. The 3 aunties accepted them and couldn't say much more, so they continued to discipline Cecilia Shao on my behalf. But how could she ever submit to discipline? I praised Cecilia Shao, saying she was unparalleled in heaven and on earth. And she actually believed she was hot stuff. Though she looked down on me, she readily accepted my flattery. She only grew worse, refusing to listen to anyone, strutting about with a whip as if she owned the world. Thus, Cecilia Zhao's reputation for arrogance and tyranny spread to the palace, and then throughout the capital. And I was merely a pitiable elder sister in law, striving with all my heart to steer my little sister in law back to the right path. School, what a joke, with palace aunties coming to tutor at home. Who needs reading and writing? Later, when Cecilia Shao reached marriageable age, I found several matches for her, but she looked down on everyone, either complaining the family had no money, or grumbling the suitors weren't handsome enough. In the end, she even resented me, convinced I was hiding better matches from her. Eventually, she chose one of Felix Zhao's subordinates, a widower, and became his second wife. Her husband's official career had been stagnant, but after marrying the legitimate daughter of the Marquise mansion, he grew ambitious, determined to make his mark in court. Yet, Cecilia Shao, raised by me to be extravagant, couldn't bear her downgraded lifestyle. She whispered in his ear, luring him down the path of corruption. The first time they were caught, Cecilia Shao came to me, begging me to rescue her husband. So I clutched some mementos, wept, and wailed before Felix Zhao's brothers. And, without spending a single coin, just by wagging my tongue, invoking Felix Zhao's name, and reminiscing about their past camaraderie, I got Cecilia Zhao's husband out. Time and again, the couple grew bolder, knowing I'd always be there to bail them out. 3 months ago, the imperial examination scandal exposed this brother's misdeeds, landing both husband and wife behind bars. This time, even the current prime minister couldn't secure their release. And now, Cecilia Shao stands before me. Felix Shao actually managed to fish his sister out. He only rescued the sister, not the brother. In law, Cecilia Shao, Iris Stew, how dare you deny my brother? This is obviously him. Hand over everything that belongs to the Shao family at once. Though disheveled and dusty, her eyes burned with naked greed for my wealth. I slammed the table. How audacious. Not content with impersonating my late husband, you now pretend to be my sister. In law, who's still in the imperial prison. Did you even bother to research your roles before the charade? Cecilia Shao sneered. My brother has ways to get me out. If you obediently surrender the treasures now, I might persuade him to leave your corpse intact. Are you truly Cecilia Shao? I asked with a darkened expression, scrutinizing her from head to toe. Felix Shao, who had remained silent until now, snorted coldly. Mrs. I don't know what tricks you're playing, but now there's someone who can verify my identity. Hand over the Shao family's land deeds at once. Cecilia Shao declared herself. It is I, the genuine article. I am the rightful daughter of the Marquise mansion. Reclaiming our Shao family's land deeds is only natural. No sooner had she spoken than a group of officers stormed in through the door. The moment they appeared, Felix Shao leaped onto the rafters to hide. I feigned weakness. Honorable officers, please take this fugitive from the imperial prison away at once. You hurt her yourself. She claims to be of the Shao family. Who knows why such a dangerous criminal ended up here? I beg you to ensure justice is served before the master. Good sirs. The lead officer bowed to me. Rest assured, Madame Du, our superior will investigate this thoroughly. Men, take Cecilia Shao away. The officers pinned Cecilia Shao to the ground and dragged her off, ignoring her cries and struggles. Once they left, I said leisurely, "Old sir, I didn't expect you to be so nimble. Would you care to come down from my roof beam now?" I deliberately emphasized the words "my house." Felix Shao jumped down from the beam and suddenly reached to choke my neck. "If only you die." I immediately snapped my fingers, and a group of black-clad figures suddenly emerged from the empty courtyard. In less than 5 seconds, Felix Shao was forced to his knees with several long swords pressed against him. I looked down at him condescendingly. "You didn't think a lone widow who lost her husband would be completely unprepared, did you?" After suffering humiliation at my hands, Felix Shao disappeared without a trace for several days. His absence suited me just fine. As the day of Caleb Zhao's autumn execution approached, I applied a delicate widow's makeup, dressed in plain mourning clothes, and arrived weeping at the marketplace entrance. Seeing my arrival, several acquaintances tried to console me. "Mrs. Du, these years haven't been easy for you. Everyone knows you had nothing to do with that scoundrel Zhao's death." The sight of a head rolling might be too gruesome to watch later. Better not look. "Ah, Mrs. Du, what a tragic fate she had." I thanked them for their kindness, dabbing at non-existent tears with a handkerchief. "I came today to flaunt my fragility and, more importantly, to witness Caleb Shao die before my eyes." Caleb Shao was an outlier in the mansion. After Felix Shao went missing, he devoted himself to studies and always treated me with utmost respect. Even when Lady Lin viciously slandered me in front of him while she was alive, his demeanor toward me never wavered. He refused to marry even at the age for it, holding a position in official circles. While drinking merrily with colleagues, he'd often fall silent, glass in hand, gazing toward home, and in drunken stupors, he'd murmur my name. Doesn't it sound like the beginning of a beautiful tale of brotherly devotion? But no one knew Caleb Shao had a preference for men. His servant boys were replaced time and again. Who knows how many he'd played to death. Not only did he favor male companions, but he particularly preferred them young. Everyone thought he was deeply interested in a beautiful young widow, but in truth, I was just his shield. Through his subtle hints, everyone assumed I'd already been involved with him. In the story, the original host was accused of having an affair with Caleb Shao, while the flawless Liana naturally appeared more virtuous than me. Dealing with a man blinded by lust was almost too easy. I sent Felix, Zhao's best friend, the son of a general, straight into Caleb Zhao's bed. Right in the heat of passion, Caleb was caught in the act by the general, who rushed over upon hearing the news, and had his leg brutally broken. As for the general's son, he was left unconscious. If not for the millennium ginseng I used to sustain him, the general's only heir might have been lost. This move drove Felix's closest ally to sever ties with the Shao family and vow to destroy Caleb Shao. At that time, Caleb was originally set to inherit the Marquis title, but was abruptly stopped. The vast Marquis mansion was left without a Marquis or an heir. Only me, holding the title of Madam. Caleb Shao was no fool. He finally realized it was I who had delivered those men to his bed. A pity he discovered it far too late. Clad in plain white, holding a blood-written petition, I knelt before the throne hall for an entire night. How many young boys Caleb Shao had tortured and killed. How he oppressed men abroad, exploited the Marquis mansion's reputation to collude with officials, and plundered the people's wealth. Each charge, each incident, was utterly horrifying. The emperor was enraged upon hearing, yet he admired my courage. With the Empress Dowager pleading for mercy, he exempted me from blame and focused solely on the Shao family. After a swift series of actions, the emperor revoked the Marquis title. There would be no more Marquis Shao in this world. The emperor granted me an additional honorary title, bestowed the Shao residence upon me, and personally inscribed a plaque for it. though the ink has yet to dry these past few days, so I haven't hung it up. Iris Stu, am now a state, certified widow by the Emperor's decree. If my husband were to reappear at this moment, it would be a crime of deceiving the sovereign. Caleb Zhao's crimes were truly severe, and with General Zane's tight security, even if Felix Xiao wanted to break into the Imperial prison to rescue him, it would be futile. I scanned the crowd and quickly spotted Felix Xiao. I slowly edged my way toward him. There were too many onlookers today, making it quite crowded. Soon, I reached Felix Xiao's side, where he stood facing his former sworn brother with a grim expression. He immediately questioned, "After all our years as brothers, how could you fail to protect even my younger brother?" General Zane glared coldly at Felix Xiao. "My brother died 10 years ago. Who are you? Some insolent commoner, daring to impersonate him?" Felix Xiao nearly choked on his anger. After a decade as an ordinary civilian, did he still think he was the valiant Marquis Xiao of old? However, "I can help you one last time." He lowered his voice. Just as Felix Xiao was about to express gratitude, General Zane suddenly shouted, "There's another remnant of the Xiao family here." As the words fell, the execution on the platform was just about to begin. Caleb Zhao's head instantly turned this way, locking eyes with Felix Xiao. Before the brothers could exchange a single word, the blade rose and fell. A head rolled. The crowd cheered wildly. Amidst the chaos, Felix Xiao swiftly departed. General Zane helped him one last time, merely allowing the brothers to meet. I brought back Caleb Zhao's head, tossed it into the Xiao ancestral hall, and lit an incense stick. "Ancestors of the Xiao family, behold, I've brought your unfilial son home. Rest easy and relocate. This vast house with so many tablets keeps me awake at night. From now on, this estate bears the due name. Tuck yourselves away in a box." With that, I began stuffing the ancestral tablets into a prepared chest. This chest was the largest and most expensive one I brought when I married into the Xiao family. It once held my silver, nearly depleted over the past decade. But no matter, one chest gone, many more remain. Now that my father and brothers have open maritime trade, our wealth surpasses imagination. After placing the memorial tablets, I clapped my hands, and 2 bodyguards appeared silently, carrying the box into the courtyard. It'd be a waste to burn these tablets for firewood. Better to keep them stored. They might come in handy later. I specifically ordered the servants to steer clear of the memorial tablet box. Who knows what might jump out of there? I looked up at the inscription on the Xiao family ancestral hall and instructed the servants, "Bring my chastity archway and hang it up." Ah, what a virtuous widow, brimming with integrity. I am after my husband's death. That night, an extra person suddenly appeared in my room. I snapped my eyes open, glaring coldly at the man kneeling on the floor. "What do you want?" The man suddenly grabbed my hand. "Madam, you've suffered all these years. Let me return and take proper care of you." In the hazy moonlight, his face did seem a bit more handsome than usual. He's got decent features, but who knows how much makeup he slathered on today to come see me. I calmly withdrew my hand. "You exaggerate. I am merely a woman whose husband has passed away. Over these 10 years, I have long grown accustomed to it." Felix Xiao raised his voice. "Madam, I am not dead. It was all Liana. She seduced me while I was injured and used the children to force me to stay. Those children are of the Xiao bloodline, so I had no choice but to remain." I asked skeptically, "Really?" Seeing that I was softening, Felix Xiao breathed a sigh of relief. "Truly, I returned because I still have feelings for you. Please let me come back. Liana has worked hard all these years. Even if she hasn't contributed much, let her be my concubine, or even without any title. Rest assured, you will always be the primary wife of this household. As for those children, it's just a matter of adding a few more bowls at the table. I promise they will never trouble you." His words left me utterly bewildered. Was he pleading with me, or demanding something of me? Still, I was curious. What exactly was he trying to achieve with this attitude? I clear my throat lightly, an idea forming. "I will give you a chance. Let's see how you prove yourself." As soon as the words left his mouth, the man suddenly embraced me. Just as goosebumps rose all over my body, he released me again. His tone dripped with saccharine sweetness. "Madam, as long as you're willing to acknowledge me, I'll do anything you want." "Anything?" My gaze swept over him with amused curiosity before I replied. "Then go empty the chamber pots." The blush that had just colored his cheeks vanished instantly. I looked at him with a half smile. "Didn't you just say you'd do anything? Why the hesitation now?" "It seems your sincerity was merely performative." Gritting his teeth, he stood up. "I'll go now." After Felix, Xiao humbled himself before me. He brought Liana and all 5 children back within a few days. Felix Xiao fawned obsequiously. "Madam, from now on these 5 children shall be ours. If you treat them as your own, they'll surely repay your kindness." "Is that so?" The 5th child was notoriously vicious in the original story. Cross him once, and you'd never live peacefully again. He served as Liana's sharpest blade, famously protective of his mother. Each of these 5 children has their own quirks. Having transmigrated into this book for so long, I've nearly forgotten the peculiarities of the others. I pulled out an abacus and clattered away for a long while. 5 children need food, clothing, and schooling. This is far from the promised, just adding 5 pairs of chopsticks. They're so young and don't seem capable of working yet. Finally, I slapped the abacus decisively. "If you want to eat, you must work diligently in this mansion. If you act like privileged young masters and mistresses, my due manor cannot afford to keep you." After speaking, I clapped my hands, and servants immediately brought 7 sets of clothes in varying sizes, giving 1 set to each child. With 2 sets remaining, I glanced sideways at Felix Xiao. "Why are you just standing there? Do you and Liana not need to eat?" The 2 of them looked quite reluctant, but ultimately accepted the 2 sets of clothes. I put great effort into transforming Xiao Manor into Du Manor, not only renovating several courtyards, but also adjusting the feng shui in key areas, especially the pond I once jumped into. I had it filled completely and replaced it with an artificial rockery in another location. For the next month, Felix Xiao, along with his Liana and 5 children, buried themselves in work at my house, too exhausted each day to even spare a word for me. I quite enjoyed the peace. Still, he did have charisma, quickly becoming buddies with several servants in the estate. He began inquiring about the most valuable items in the mansion, like my dowry. On a dark and windy night, the largest and heaviest dowry chest in the courtyard was stolen. Gone at the same time were Felix Xiao, Liana, and the 5 children. A maid rushed into my room. "Madam, what should we do? Should we report this to the authorities?" I waved my hand grandly. "Of course. Tell the officials that those poor relatives from the Xiao countryside stole an entire chest of my dowry. Let me calculate, roughly 10,000 taels of gold." The maid quickly covered my mouth. "Madam, isn't this framing them?" I lowered my voice. "What's there to fear? No one knows what was really in that chest anyway. Just report it as I said. Let the whole world know those 6 are carrying 10,000 taels of gold. If they can't touch me, they'll surely go after them. That way, they won't be constantly hovering around me all day." The maid finally understood and quickly took a bodyguard with her to report the incident to the authorities. I had locked the dowry chest with a total of 81 large locks. The chest wasn't made of wood, but rather crafted from specially reinforced metal for durability. I'm really looking forward to it. The family of 7 fled with my dowry chest in tow. When all hope seemed lost, hearing of 10,000 taels of gold revived his spirits. After much effort prying the box open, discovering the Xiao family ancestral tablets inside, just thinking about it was thrilling. While they're fleeing, I should pack my bags and make a run for it too. From then on, I never heard any news about Felix Xiao again, and the 5 gifted children never played any significant role either. The future prime minister, the future general, the future #1 beauty, all gone. At this very moment, I was lying on a deck chair, with 2 cucumber slices placed over my eyes. "Hey, little maid, are you really not planning to find another husband?" My brother's voice came from above my head. I stretched lazily, exhaling deeply as I breathed in the free air of the sea. "Look for what? You don't actually think I'd go back, do you?" I popped a cucumber slice into my mouth, chewed twice, and struck the classic Titanic arms, outstretched pose against the wind. The sea breeze swept over me, washing through my entire being. Here, there was no pressure from novel plots, no oppression from chastity archways, no tyranny of imperial power. The air was thick with the cloying sweetness of freedom. I could sing at the top of my lungs. I could journey to the other side of the ocean. I could live without a care. At last, I could be myself again.